All right, so I just did a video on the markets and interest rates. Just to summarize, I think markets will start to finally move back down and interest rates will start to move back up. I don't know how high interest rates will go. Have they seen their peak? Maybe, but I don't think they're going to drop off too much. Let's look at the dollar though. The dollar, now that flushed what I thought was clear support, also clear resistance before. So I think this trend line is important. So let's call it 105.5-ish. Okay, we flushed it nicely on this day here. And now we've retraced and we're basically back there. So technically, it should find resistance and move back down again. So maybe the dollar will find resistance today. Let's see. I'm also thinking about yields though, because interest rates should move back up because they've also found support. So it'll be interesting to see how, whether I'm right, whether yields go up, but the dollar goes down. That's pretty rare to see, but we may see something like that. So maybe yields outperforming the dollar. But I don't see the dollar going too high, to be honest, because look what's just happened. It's just flushed, lower lows. I don't want to say lower highs, but you know what I mean? So we're back at resistance. It should be a difficult path forward for the dollar. So maybe a bit of resistance, and then we can roll over and ultimately test this 104.5 that I've been calling for some time. So let's see, maybe some resistance here, sideways, back down again, and then new lows to 104.5, and then we'll see what happens. So I think the dollar should find resistance today, despite yields maybe climbing. We'll see how that goes. Okay, so that's the dollar. It should find resistance. Let's look at commodities now, starting off with copper. Okay, so copper broke out of this zone. That was quite an easy call. The markets are going up, and copper was resilient back here when the markets were not. But to be honest, copper was really weaker than I expected for several trading days. Think about how strong the markets were. So even though it broke out, there was no continuation. We did have a back test of the breakout zone, okay, yesterday, but still markets were kind of unchanged, and it's a big red day. So for me, copper is, you know, it's been going up, but very, very weak. And again, the dollar, I expect it to start going down again. That should help copper, but I think the markets will finally go back down. That should send copper down. So I really don't know. Copper's just a strange one. And if I had to make a call, I would say sideways down. Honestly, back down to 3.5. I mean, long term, I'm a bull copper like gold and silver, but realistically, it's just been too weak for too long. And yeah, because of the reasons I just stipulated. So I reckon it's gonna just go. If it tries to rally, it'll be a weak rally. So sideways down actually for copper is especially because the markets I expect to go back down again now. Natural gas, that's come again. It's always teasing us like it's just about to make new highs and then back down it goes. Look, we have this ascending support. It's near enough. The last pivot low was here. It's near enough. I don't think the market's interest rate, the dollars, the US dollar matters. I just feel like it's going to go sideways up. So I think natural gas will start to rally again and go back for its 3.65 high. So natural gas up, copper sideways down, oil. Now, oil, big drop yesterday, 4%. Honestly, this is just a weak price action the last couple of days on support. This was clear support for me, 80, just under 82. Look at it, just closing below, not really rallying, taking too long. It just needs to find a new level of support to rise from, and that's exactly what this will be. 78 should be support. I know we're below it right now, but when I say 78, I mean roughly 78. So here I expect it to start to consolidate, just go sideways a little bit, retest 82, maybe just gets rejected straight away, and then go back up. And then probably, honestly, probably just start to run into some sort of resistance like here. So I expect it to sideways, up, down, up, and then start to test this. And then we'll see if we can break out and go back up to the 90s. So I think the sell-off is overdone in oil. I think what's going on in Israel, you could have oil embargo starting, like pure 1970s stuff. Oil is a buy right now where it is. So oil, I understand why it dropped, news, technicals, whatever. Now you're in a decent base to rise from. So if it goes lower, I really don't expect that. But then 74 should be extremely strong support. But actually, this should also be extremely strong support. So 78 should be going up from there. Uranium, this thing just continues to make higher highs, higher lows, and just ultimately teasing people, but it's going to go, it just looks like it wants to go back up to 28.5, grinding its way back up to 28.5, and then squeeze to 31.5. So yesterday's candle was very nice. It visited lows, it closed in high of day. It's just a higher low. You can almost draw an X. I don't think you should draw this trend line because it will confuse you, but you know what I mean? Like this kind of trend line, very, very impressive. Actually, I'll draw it just like that, but very impressive strength. And remember, the markets yesterday were kind of not very strong, but uranium outperformed. So uranium, just same story. Higher highs, higher lows, just going up for 20.5 in a squeeze. Gold and silver. Now, gold initially flushed yesterday, but again, around in the 50 zone, like 1950, what was it, 6 or something. Kind of this level honestly is a level of support. So if we start to move back down again, if you close below 1950, then you're in for a bit of a flush. I think you're probably going to test this descending, so I don't need to draw any more trend lines, but not the worst day for gold, finding some decent support after a flush. Remember, the dollar is going up too. Yields are going to start to go up. So I think when it comes to commodities, especially gold and silver, it's the dollar more than yields that counts. So I think we finally have our decision. If you're wondering what to watch the dollar. So it's a red day, not the worst, closed way off its lows. And again, the 50s, 1950s acted as support. Now silver continues to underperform. Again, yesterday didn't close that far off its lows. I wasn't sure whether this ascending line counts, but it did yesterday. It gets a bit difficult to call once you get below this line, but we're right there. Silver is underperforming, and if gold starts to go back down and visit its lows from yesterday, 1956, 5, whatever, it's pretty much 1955 that seems to be support, but let's call it 1950. If we get to 1950 today, silver will be much lower, and silver could just cascade the whole thing down. It could have a bit of its, sometimes it does it just a flush, like one of these flushes, horrible candles. So silver is underperforming and it's getting dangerously low. So we need gold to help it out as usual. Now, if silver starts to lose, again, it's very hard to call around here. For me, look at this last horizontal. If I can just zoom in, actually, I never do this, but look at this. You got this candle low here. Let's call it 22.37, 22.4 roughly. Look at this candle here, 22.44. So I call roughly 22.4. If we start to close below 22.4, especially below this candle low here, 22. Let's say 38. So today, where do we close? If it's here, then honestly, you'll flush, and I don't see support at 22. I just don't. I know it's a psychological big number, but it'll probably go lower. 21.8 tends to do that anyway. A lot of things tend to flush their big round numbers and close back above it. But yeah, silver weak, and it's been weak for a long time actually. So that's what I'm seeing. Again, I do expect the dollar to meet resistance and go back down. Maybe that will save silver, and silver can end up having a nice green candle and holding this general zone. But silver underperforming gold, gold doing okay, still finding its 1950 support. Let's see what happens. The miners yesterday was okay. It started off really badly. There was some very bad miners. Which I bought EXK. I got the absolute low at 183. That really, I don't even think it shows up on TradingView. I'm talking specific miners here, but also First Majestic was green by like 3 or 4%. That was a very nice. Maybe I can show you actually real quickly before I even before I even cover the mining index. Look at First Majestic. Given it was a minus 1.5, 2% day on the index, this is very nice bottom action, when you have big green candles closing their high of day. So First Majestic looks good. EXK had bad earnings, but look at this. And this is why I bought it at 183. Look at this. That's why I draw these lines during my portfolio update. Then if I'm taken by news, I just look at it and straight away, okay, it's a general buy zone. I mean, I know that I might be off by 1 or 2 cents, but I do expect my trend line to be correct, and it was, and I actually got the absolute low, so I'm quite happy about that. And to be honest, it was down like 15% or something at the low of day, right at the beginning. And look how it closed. It reminded me a bit like AG. Look at that. That's really nice action. Now, obviously, if we go down today in the miners and the gold close at like 1948 in gold, you're going to have the XK red again. But that was a very nice day. So it wasn't the worst. Some of the seniors were a bit weak. Newmont again, look at how closing down here. But let's see, let's see. This is all you got to zoom out. It's a general period, so that's why you got to manage your positions. Let's say if you've already bought this zone, don't buy again just in case it does flush. Let me just cover the GDX. I don't usually go to individual miners. I just thought I would make an exception. So GDXJ, look, that's okay. We touched. I mean, these are lines I've had for a while. You can see why a support back then. This is not really a support zone. In fact, I'll delete it because it's deceptive. But it's good because it closed way off its lows, and I think it outperformed gold actually, despite being down 1.7%. I know there's a bit of a gap, but just off its lows, it was a good close. So I thought that was constructive despite it being a red day. But we need gold and silver to rise really for the miners to go up. And we probably need the dollar to fall for that. I'm not sure what we need the markets to do because there was that one day where we went up with the markets like 6% that day there on that Friday. But the days before, we weren't going up with the market. So I think it's really related to the dollar and interest rates too, actually. This is GDX also performing a bit like GDXJ. So let's see. For me, I don't need to add any more lines. We have the clear resistance up here. Support seems to be the descending line. You can see just many times we've been touching it. But just give it room, zoom out. You've probably bought this zone because we visited it already. So, give it space. If you want to buy again, wait for a drop all the way back down here. If you want to sell, maybe wait for a retest here. But honestly, if we're going to retest here, we're probably going to go higher. So let's see what happens. Many moving parts. The dollar, interest rates, markets, and gold and silver itself. So good luck out there.